Hey guys, ElusivGG here and welcome back. First and foremost, I'd like to say a massive Merry Christmas to everybody out there watching this video. The time of recording this video is actually Christmas Day here in Australia. I have a few hours spare in between my dinner tonight, so I thought I'd come in and show a deck tech video on a deck that I've been working on, which is a Razorhead 2 on the All symbol, if you can't already tell by the thumbnail. So let's just get right into it. So this is going to be a series moving forward that I would like to do called Hero Class. I think we're going to be calling it from a fair few people in the community have voted and they would like it to be called Hero Class. So I'm just going to stick with that. So any deck tech video moving forward will be under the Hero Class category if you want to check those out. But our second hero or character that we'll be doing a deck tech on the channel is Razorhead 2 on the All symbol. When he got spoiled, I wasn't a very big fan of the card originally looking into it. And just testing set 3 characters and just builds that I do like and want to be testing moving forward, especially for the HLC coming up in January that I'll be attending. I was reminded on a Razorhead 2 being a character possibly that I could be playing a water build on. And being a water build character already with my Moneta 2 build, I wanted to try something different. So I've never played on the All or Void symbol on any character thus far in the MHA CCG card game days. And I would thought, why would I not go out of my comfort zone and just build on a symbol that I'm not familiar with? So I wanted to test out the All symbol, the weapons build. I am a big fan of Stain as a character in general, but just the weapon builds the weapon cards, I should say, that were currently available, just nothing kind of stood out to me. So I didn't really build Stain at all. But then once I was reminded about this card again, and the first enhance kind of got me quite excited, because if I'm able to string out enough attacks on turn 2 or 3, which has happened plenty of times, I can just pretty much kill anybody. So the first enhance, for those of you who don't know, is your attack gets +1 speed for each attack in your card pool. If it's completely blocked, draw a card. And then the response step, the response is a commit a Razorhead. Your rival, after your rival plays an attack, choose one ability on that attack. It loses that ability for the rest of the turn. Just remember that this does not affect keywords. As when I first was playing, I was committing keywords on characters and started realizing its ability. So just do keep that in mind. That is ability on the card. So any enhancers or powerful 2 or EX2, you're able to commit a Razorhead, and they lose that ability for that turn on that card. So starting off on the attacks, we have 4 copies of Blinding Cloth Capture. This card is a fantastic card in this deck. I would start off by saying the hardest part in playing this deck is that all your attacks, well, it's not the hardest part. The fantastic part about this deck is all of your attacks or weapon combos attacks. The hardest part about it is trying to figure out which attack you would like to open up the string with. This generally is my opening attack. Just being on the 5 diff just makes a big difference at the start. You obviously don't want to be checking this or trying to pass this check later down in the string. So I do tend to open with this attack. It is a 4 low for 5 damage, which as your first attack which will be a 5 low because of a Razorhead's ability. So it's a 5 low for 5. First enhance will be Seal 1 Rival Foundation. So anything you don't like, you can just point, flick, you lose that foundation for the rest of the turn. The combo enhance in this is also very nice. If you've played an action card this turn, your rival discards 1 card. Starting off with this, we cannot choose the combo ability on it, unfortunately. But if this is your second attack on the string and you've been able to play an action card, which we do run 3 of them in the deck, which we will get to shortly, You can obviously use the combo enhance if you played an action that turn, and also if you've played an action, which is the printing right at the top there, which is a little bit hard to see or read, but if you played an action card this turn, this attack gets -2 difficulty. So if you do choose to use this as possibly a finishing move later on, or your second or third attack after an action, it is easy to play, but I tend to just start off with this attack purely because of the Seal 1 Rival Foundation. Up next, we have 4 copies of Binding Cloth Whiplash. Now, this card is probably my most favorite card in the deck. Just the fact that as a combo enhance, it doesn't count towards progressive for the turn is just amazing. I will be uploading a video within the next few days of a turn when I was able to pop off with, I think it was 3 of these cards in a turn with 2 other attacks. So I was able to play a 5-card attack string off 4 foundations. It was absolutely incredible. But combo enhance, this attack does not count towards progressive difficulty the rest of the turn. Playing this as your second attack, it is a 2 low for 5 because remember, Erase Ahead enhance gets +1 speed for each attack in your card pool. So the more you string out, the faster your attacks become, I should say. But it's just 4 low for 5, doesn't count towards progressive. Amazing. That's at a 4 off. Next up, we have 4 copies of Blinding Cloth Assault. This card is fantastic in this deck. I tend to never really open with this card. I always want to be able to use the combo enhance on this. So combo enhance, discard 1 card to draw 2 cards. The turns where you maybe didn't draw fantastic attacks, or you only drew 2 or 3 attacks and you can't really pop off. You play your first one, you then play Blinding Cloth as your second one, you do the discard, you draw 2, which is just a really good hand fixer and really important for those kill turns when you're trying to find those attacks. We are running 19 attacks in the deck, in a 56 card deck, so you do find them quite regularly, but just for those kill turns where you need to either find that 1 or 2 just to finish off the opponent, this card comes in very clutch. And then also the second enhance is if you've played an action this turn, this attack gets +2 speed. Once again, play a miss later down in a string. If you've played the attack earlier, you can still use his ability. So then if it's the 3rd or 4th attack, it comes in with +4 speed from the Eraserhead enhance. So it's a 7 mid for 5 at that stage. And then if you plan an attack, it'll be a 9 mid for 5. Card we play is Blinding Cloth Dropkick, which is at a 3 of. This is one of my last attack strings that I'll be playing in an attack string lineup. It is a 4 high for 4. Combo enhance, discard 1 card. This attack gets +4 damage. So just as a base stat off the combo enhance, if you're able to get the combo enhance off, so I never open with this card, it'll be a 4 high for 8. Once again, if it is the 3rd, 4th, or 5th attack that string, it will get 5 speed or whatever attack number it is. It will get +X attack depending on how many cards you have in front of it. So it can become easily a 9 high for 8. Not including any other damage buffs you have in your foundations, which we'll get to in a little bit. This is at a 3 of. I think it's good at a 3 of. I don't like to see it too often, as I'd like to open up with other attacks in the deck. But this just at a 3 of is really, really nice. Okay, so our next card is 3 copies of Piercing Descent. When building this deck, it was between this or Aerial Drop, because I wanted to have a low block in my attacks. I ended up choosing this only because of the damage pump that we can get on this card. Also, the fact that if your rival loses, if this attack does damage, I lose an additional one. So again, really good at the end of an attack string, making this a 6/7 high for 7 damage just off the combo enhance. Again, not including any damage buffs that we have on board. So great card to finish it. Sometimes I do tend to start the attack string with this card. It isn't a major kill card in the deck, so I do tend to start with this card if I don't have any of the blinding. Oh my goodness, blinding cloth capture cards. Sorry guys, too many binding cards to remember every single one of them. So yeah, so if I don't have one of those, I do tend to start off with this card. Just being a 3 higher for 5 is just nice. Your opponent will most likely take the damage, or if they do tend to fully block, fantastic. I'll just draw a card off the Eraserhead enhance for fully blocking an attack. So guys, I should say, if you're not a fan of this card, you can choose to do Aero Drop instead. It is nice. At the cost of discarding 1 momentum, the attack gains stun 2. So if you need to stun at your opponent, that is also a good opener, because that's not a combo enhanced card. So if you're not a fan of this card, I would recommend you use Aerial Drop, but this card just fits really nice in the deck. And last but not least, pretty much our wanting to be our main finisher in the attack string. It is Total Erasure Binding. 4 high for 5 main stats. Best thing about this card, powerful 3. Being able to chip your opponent early on, getting a few momentum in, 2 or 3 momentum at the start of the game, and then setting up an attack string where you're doing 5 to maybe possibly 6 attacks. This being the 6th one, discard power for 3. It's a +6 speed, so 10 high for 12, 14 damage is quite nice. The combo enhance is amazing in this card. It's still 3 rubber foundation, so even if you do need this to be the second attack in a string, just to be able to get rid of some pesky foundations on your opponent's board, you can use this as the second one. I am thinking about making this a 2 of. I'm just not too sure what I want to cut out to add a second copy of this card. This card is very, very nice as a finisher, so seeing it a bit more is a lot nicer than seeing it and then not seeing it at all during the game. And then the enhance is your rival cannot play abilities on their character during this attack. This is an amazing finisher, guys. I most likely will be putting it at a 2 of. I just want to do a little bit more testing to see what I want to cut out for it. But this, I mean, in saying that though, at a 1 of, it feels great. I don't tend to use this too much because I'm kind of wanting to kill my opponent on turn 2 or 3, and sometimes at that time I don't have any momentum to use any of the powerful 3. So I do tend to sometimes even just use this as the second attack just to steal 3 foundations, just so anything else that I play later on is just a lot easier and without any disruption. And that's the 19 attack lineup. We will go to the foundations now, and starting off, any good or void or water deck is prone to dry eyes. If you're playing an aggro 6 or 7 card character that shares these symbols, in my opinion, you need to have prone to dry eyes in your deck. I wanted to originally have this at a 3 of, but just the ratios of the deck, I decided to cut it at a 2 of. I might make it a 3 of and remove one of the other foundations that we'll get to shortly, just to see this card a lot more often and a lot earlier on is just a lot better. If for those of you who don't know, enhance, discard 1 card, your attacks get +1 damage for the rest of the turn. And yes, these do stack. So later on in the attack string, if you're able to discard 3 cards to prone to dry eyes, every card moving forward will have whatever card you discarded to prone to dry eyes stacked on top of it. So just a great foundation card. And that's at a 2 of. At the moment, it is nice. I am thinking about making it a 3 of, just to be able to see it a bit more often. Next foundation is Exhausted Excavation, which it is at a 4 of. The best thing about this card is if your opponent plays an attack at the start of the turn, you do not like anything on that card at all, you're able to response, commit Eraserhead, get rid of that pesky ability that you don't want to see on that character. And then as your first enhance, you commit this card. Because the Razorhead is committed, you're able to draw a card and just start refilling your hand. So this is just a good defensive draw engine. Just to be able to draw back cards up to your hand is just fantastic. Next we have 4 Specialists of Sounds. If you're playing any character that shares Specialist of Sounds traits, you'll be playing any number of copies of Special of Sounds in your deck. This card is just absolutely nuts. After you check this card as a response, you can reveal the top card of your deck. Just helps you know, especially on the early turns in the game, you're trying to build out. You check a specialist early on. You check a 5. You can now play that 3 cost as your third foundation on the turn because you know you passed the check on a 5. It just helps out on that, and then response. Commit after Tunetank is played, gets -3 speed. Just a fantastic defensive card. It is currently at a 4 of. I am thinking about maybe possibly cutting this back down to 3 of to add a 3rd copy of Prone to Dry Eyes. But it is between this and another card that we'll get to shortly. Next, we have 2 copies of Advice for Winners. This card was not originally in the deck. Once I had originally built the deck, it had 2 copies of Spooky in it. And then just during playtesting, I was finding it hard to be able to pass a long string of attacks. I was finding it hard to check a long string of attacks. Being able to obviously check attacks when trying to play attacks is not a good thing. So I just switched the 2 Spooky for these 2, just to be able to do those rechecks on those turns that I'm trying to go for the kill or trying to just pressure my opponent a bit more. This card just came in a little bit more clutch. For those of you who don't know, it is flip after you check a printed 3 to play a card, recheck. So it is at a 2 of. I think any more than a 2 of you probably don't need in your deck. But if you're finding it hard to pass a lot of checks, you could maybe possibly make this a 3 of, but at a 2 of is just perfectly fine. Because if you see it, fantastic. If you don't, and then you're just checking it for a 5, it's really good still. Next, we have 1 copy of Night Watch. Once again, this wasn't originally in the deck. I did add it in just to be able to do the response on it. So it is unique. So remember, you can only have 1 of these on your field at a time in your stage. So it's response, remove Night Watch, remove 1 action card from your discard pile after your rival plays a non-character enhance, cancel it. So anything you don't like to see that your opponent's trying to do, you can just remove this, remove 1 of the action cards that we play, and you can just cancel that enhance. Also, the Deadlock form, it is nice, but you pretty much don't want to be going into Deadlock against this deck. You want to be able to kill them before they have more than 10 foundations in play, because you will most likely burn out. Next, we got the 1-drops, so destined for mainstream success. This card is just fantastic, guys. Just being able to flip, look at the top card of your deck, always calling attack with this card every single time. Just to be able to draw that attack so you're not going to check it. Also, to be able to see what your check will be next. There is a bit of a combo in this with the next foundation that I will show. I'll actually bring it out now, just for main sake. So that is three copies of Celebrity Status. So what I was finding in some of my games were my opponent wasn't blocking my attacks, or he was blocking my attacks. So the turns that I needed him to block my attacks, he wouldn't block my attacks, and then turns that I didn't need him to, he would. So what I decided to add in was celebrity status into this deck. So flip, add 1 of your momentum to the top of your deck. So once again, if you're able to early on chipper your opponent, build your momentum up to 2 or 3 momentum cards. Once you have these 2 in play, you can flip celebrity status, add the top card of your momentum to your deck. Excuse me, guys, sorry. Flip Destined Mainstream, call attack, put that attack into your hand. Also, if you don't have Destined for Mainstream success in your stage, but you do have celebrity status, it is also a mind game streak. So you flip celebrity status, you still add 1 momentum to the top of your deck. Your attack might be coming in for 4 high for 5, or something blockable, 3 mid for 6, something like that. So your opponent then will have to decide, how bad do I want him to have that attack he just put on top of his deck? Does he need it? Does he not need it? If they half block it, fantastic. You've done damage. That next card will go to momentum. That next check, unfortunately, will be a 3, but at least you can plan ahead of it and work your way around it. But yeah, these 2 just work really well together. Originally this was at a 4 of building the deck. I did cut it back to a 1 of, just to slim down the deck a little bit better, to be at a slim 56. And this just works perfectly fine. Next 1 drop at a 4 of is Late Riser. This is our damage pump enhance on every attack in our deck. So the card reads, enhance, if you've played a combo ability this enhance step, your attack gets +1 damage. So we're just making our things faster every turn after the second attack, and making everything stronger as well with the Late Riser. Also, as good as response, after this card is discarded from your hand during the enhance step, this attack gets +1 or -2 speed. So again, with the attacks that make you discard cards, so works well with Blinding Cloth Dropkick and Blinding Cloth Assault. Whoops, sorry guys. So discard 1 card. This attack gets +4 damage. Late Rise in your hand, you discard it. It gets a 4 damage response to discarding this. This also gets a speed above the damage buff as well. So now it's going to be coming in as a 5 high for 8, just off these 2 cards, not including any other speed buffs that you'll be giving off Eraserhead himself. And then once again, Blinding Cloth Assault. Discard 1 card, draw 2 cards. You discard Late Riser from your hand. Response, give this a speed, and then you draw your 2 cards back. So Late Riser being out of 4 of is, in my opinion, a must. The card is just absolutely nuts. It works really well on the field and really well in your hand, being able to discard it to pay to get that extra speed off those cards. Then we have 2 copies of Chivalrous Competitor. This is purely here just for that turn where we've strung out. We need that extra attack off the top of our deck to kill our opponent. You flip, we both just draw a card. You're trying to fish for that other attack. At that stage, you don't really care what your opponent draws, especially if you're going to be making it, a +5, +6 speed on top of its base stats. If that's that far along in your string, so your opponent most likely at that stage won't be able to block it. So giving them a card and giving yourself a card isn't the worst thing. I do it every time. It doesn't hinder me at all. It just depends if it's an attack or not. And obviously, response before one of your foundations will be destroyed or flipped due to a rival's non-character effect. Flip this foundation instead. So if you want to keep any of your late risers around, your specialist for sounds, anything that you like that you want to keep as a defensive or whatnot, you just flip the chivalrous instead. It's really nice. This set of 2 of is more than enough. Next, we have 2 copies of Closing In. You guys might be thinking, is this really necessary in the deck? No, it is not necessary. Obviously, Eraserhead gives us speed off the face of his card, so this card isn't needed. But the amount of times that this card has come in clutch for me in my matches is insane. Just to be able to get something +2 speed on top of whatever it is. Say it's coming in for 7 high for 7 damage. Your opponent has enough to be able to block it. Giving this the extra 2 speed, making it a 9, almost making it impossible to block, is just fantastic. Also, it's awesome to have in the card for the decks that are running any speed hate. Being able to reduce your speed off the Eraserhead buff to give this the 2 back on top of it is just really, really nice. So this set of 2 of, I could see making this set of 3, but once again, it just depends on your meta in your community. If there's a lot of speed hate, if you just want to make things a lot more faster, harder to block. Also, sometimes I tend to just use this to flip it on my second attack on the turn or my first, because it's your combo attack. It gets +2. Every attack we run in this deck is a combo attack. So even using this on the start. So say you're making your Blinding Cough captures. So this is a 5 low off Eraserhead Enhance. So 4 low for 5, Eraserhead Enhance, make it a 5 low for 5, flip this, make it a 7 low for 5. Pretty much makes this unblockable as your first attack. If your opponent would like to fully block it, fantastic. You're going to draw a card off a Eraserhead. They're most likely just going to take the 5 damage to the face. So perfect, but you can just stuff this in momentum and hopefully get it back in a later turn. Okay, starting us off at the 0 is 4. It can be fixed. Purely there just for any stun hate that we might be getting. Being able to commit this, response, flip it, build the top card of our deck face down just to be able to keep that resource up for any blocks that we need to do is just fantastic. I am thinking about cutting this down to a 3 of at the moment. And upping up the next cost card to a 3 of just to be able to see it a lot more often. The only problem I'm having is that this being a 1 high block is just too good to pass up. So I might I have a lot of thinking to do moving forward just to see what card I do want to be able to replace this with. But at the moment, being at a 4 is fantastic. I might be switching it. I might be changing this to a 3 of and making the next card I show you a 3 of instead, which we'll get to that right now, is Floating Around My Babies. This card is just amazing, being at a 0 diff. The only bad thing about this card is it is a +4 mid block on this on the modifier, so you essentially never want to be caught with this card in hand to leave it to block with. Because pretty much anything you do will become unblockable at that stage. Again, for those of you who don't know, remove the top 3 cards of your discard pile. This attack gets +1 damage. You do have to keep it in mind with the action that we play. You don't want to be doing this on every single attack. You do want to time this perfectly to be able to just do it when needed. Because the action that we play does remove cards from your discard pile. So just do keep that in mind. You don't want to be removing these early on in the attack string and not being able to play your action card because you won't be able to pay for the cost. But this set of 2 of feels really, really good. I do want to make it at a 3 of just to see it earlier on. If I'm removing it, can be fixed, or maybe an event or something else. I'm not too sure at the moment, but being at a 2 of feels good. But at a 3 of is probably ideal. And to round it off, the 3 actions that we use in the deck is 3 Sugar Rush Power Up. The amount of time that this card is coming to save my ass is is ridiculous. So for those of you who don't know, you play an attack, you can then use Sugar Rush Power Up, Enhance, remove this, and then remove 10 cards from your discard pile. This attack gets +2 speed, +4 damage. It does have a second enhance, which is your attack, remove, flip one rubber foundation with an ability that reduces the damage of an attack. You're pretty much never using this second enhance. You are only ever using the first enhance. I can't say I've ever used a second enhance on this card. It might come in handy one day, but you're solely just using the first enhance to give it +2 speed, +4 damage. Fantastic thing about this card is you don't have to remove the top 10 cards of your deck, so you can actually pick and choose what cards to remove and what cards you would like to keep. Also, if you are playing this card, the good thing about this card as well is it works in tangent with Night Watch, because you do have to remove Night Watch and remove an action in your discard pile to be able to use a Night Watch's response. So just do keep that in mind. If you do have Night Watch in play on your board and you don't have a Sugar Rush Power Up in your discard pile, you cannot use the response on Night Watch. So don't rely on this card too much, especially if you don't have a Sugar Rush Power Up in your discard pile. So please do keep that in mind. It did get me once where I thought I had one in the bin. I went to use a response. I couldn't remove an action. I couldn't use the card. So here you have it, guys. Here is the entire deck list right in front of you. Right here, it is 56 cards. Sorry. Super fun to play. Very, very aggressive. A lot of the times you will have your opponent dead by turn 2 or 3. No problem at all. God willing, you find the attacks you need. But it is a very, very aggressive deck. There is a little bit of defense value to it. Not too much though. So do keep in mind it is kind of a glass cannon. I would say not as much of a glass cannon as some other characters as I've been testing it, but there is a very aggressive style to this deck. You are easily able to string 5 to 6 attacks in a turn, no problems at all. So give it a go. Please let me know how you go in the comments below. If you do like the deck tech, what cards you would add, what attack lineups you would choose. I personally really am in love with this attack lineup. But if you do have another option you'd like me to try, please put it in the comments below. I would love to try it out. And anything else in the deck you'd like me to add in, or any other recommendations you think I should try instead, or different combo abilities or whatever, I will gladly take in. But yeah, so this is episode 2 of Hero Class, and I hope you guys enjoy the deck and bring it to your locals and let me know how you go. Thanks, guys, and once again, have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you in the next one.